Um, we've talked about we've kind of talked around this in the past when we've talked about goal setting. Um, but I thought July 2nd is a perfect day because we just finished up, the first half of the year. So the first two quarters are done, and now are literally halfway through 2025. And so if you watch the goal setting, presentations we've done, and you've set some goals for 2025, the question is obviously, where are you on those goals? Like, what is your? We're doing the box score on the game here, and we want to know, where we are, right? And we, if you are watching a baseball game and in the first three innings, they put up 9 runs. Well, then, this may be a 15 or 16 or 17, total run game, right? But if we're in the fifth inning and there's only been 1 run, right? So we're on track to get 2 or 3. And so that data we have from the first couple of quarters should influence business decisions in the next 2 quarters. And I say that to say, if you are not tracking those things, then that is what today is for. We're going to kind of go through the things in business that that you should be tracking, why you should be tracking them, why it's important to be doing that. So we'll go through here. So measuring, your metrics. The three things we're going to talk about in this are your core marketing, your sales metrics, your operational metrics, and then obviously when we just talk about the financial and business health of your entire business. So just to get an idea of where you're at. And we say, well, why does this even matter? For one, we don't want you to fly blind, right? If you were flying a plane with no instruments, or you were driving a car with no gas gauge, you would be fine for a while until you hit some turbulence or you start running out of gas. You'd have no idea, how much gas you need to put in, or in an airplane, how to correct your course. So if you are off course and you don't have a compass, you're going to be in trouble. So, and obviously, your metrics are your instruments. They're going to show you when things are working well, and they're going to alert you when they're not. So you may feel like your leads are coming in steady, but without those numbers, you don't actually know, if certain channels are declining or certain types of jobs are becoming less profitable. So that is a big deal. Obviously, you're going to use this information to gauge if your marketing spend, your staffing, your pricing, all these things are based on the metrics that you're bringing into your business, and you obviously want to build a long-term profitability and sustainability. So beyond this just day-to-day feeling, these are what set you up for long-term success. So when you understand the numbers, you're better prepared. You're better prepared for seasonal dips. You're able to forecast growth, and you can confidently invest in equipment or marketing or new service lines or that kind of thing. So, and as we've talked a bunch, this will also help you build a business that's more valuable. So if you want to sell it, or investors and buyers are going to look very closely at these numbers. And so tracking now can lead to real value to your company in the future. So let's pop over here to the next one here. I literally just did all that. So we're going to go into the core marketing and sales metrics. And so the first thing we're going to talk about are, what are your lead sources, right? So we want to know where your jobs are coming from. Where are those leads coming from? Are they coming from Google search, or are they coming from Google ads, or from realtors, or social media? A lot of people think that the leads are coming from referrals, but when you start tracking, You may discover that organic search on Google drives most of the volume, or being, as we've talked about in the map pack, being higher up in that area delivers a lot of business. So you'll know those as you start to track those. And then the next thing we'll talk about, or that you need to be tracking, is your cost per lead, or your CPA, your cost per acquisition. So once you know where the lead comes from, it's time to look at that cost per lead and the cost per acquisition. And so the cost per lead tells you how much you spend to generate an inquiry, and the cost per acquisition tells you how much you actually pay to close a job. And so if you don't catch the difference there, obviously if you spend $1,000 and you get 10 leads, so your cost per lead is $100 a lead. And if you get 4 jobs out of those 10 leads, so now we're talking about your cost per acquisition is $250 per acquisition, per job, closing job. So if you start looking at those numbers, it's going to help you determine, is this a lot of you have been on Angie's List or some of those other services, and it felt like those leads came in like right away. So your CPL may have been really, really low. It might have been $5 a lead, but if just in Angie's Leads, all those leads were trash, right? And so now your cost per acquisition might be 100 times your CPL. And so now we're going, well, that's not a great number. What if your cost per lead is way closer to your cost per acquisition? So if you spend $100 and you get 4 leads and 3 of those 4 book, well, so now you're like 75% of your acquisition cost is your CPL, which would be an amazing place to be, right? Depending on the cost, right? So if it was $1,000 to get 4 leads, not so much. If it's $100 to get 4 leads, and you book 3 of those 4, and your average job is $1,500, you now have $4,500 coming in on a $100 spend, and that $100 spend and your cost for the actual acquisition of those leads is $33 and a third. So for $33, you get a $1,500 job. Great numbers, but those are just made up numbers, obviously. So we have to actually look at how are you, like what are you spending in an avenue, and how much does it bring in, and what do you get from that? So the next thing we're going to look at is the lead to conversion rate. So your conversion rate shows how well you're turning those inquiries into actual paying jobs. So, for example, if you get 50 leads and 25 become jobs, your conversion rate is 50%. And this is a powerful metric because it helps diagnose problems. A low conversion rate could mean that your team or you need better phone training, faster follow-up, clearer pricing communication, or improving conversion is often the most cost-effective way to grow your business than to simply just buying more leads. And I know that, we've talked about the difference between like the McDonald's business model and the Ruth Chris business model, or the McDonald's business model and the Chili's business model. McDonald's just wants to get as many people through the door. They're going to serve them as many people as possible. Chili's is going to get half that, and Ruth Chris is going to get a fraction of that. And the service is different, and the quality and the product. But we're talking about if I deliver you, we talked about how the Angie's Lists a lot of those are made up or they're not real. But if I deliver you 100 genuine radon mitigation, leads, and let's say 100 out of those 100 are hiring a mitigator. You got the lead, you have the opportunity to sell them, and you're only booking 10 out of those 100, something is wrong. Because those are 90 lost jobs, and so it could be a million different things. It could be as I mentioned. It could be the faster follow-up. We've talked about that a ton. We've talked about phone training. And so, how do we go about that? Or your price may be too high, right? Your price may be too low. If everyone else is charging $2,000 and you come in with a bid for $1,100, they are going to assume that something's wrong with you. If I'm going to sell you a brand new F-150 Ford truck, or let's say it's a 2-year-old truck that, it was $45,000 new, and I'm selling it 2 years old for $10,000, right? You're going to immediately assume something is wrong with that. Like your brain goes, well, that's not right. And, maybe I could say, hey, I won it in in an auction, and I got or somebody gave me, or somebody died in my family and gave me a brand new truck or whatever. And so there's reason, but I have to overcome being too cheap. So that is for those of you who may need to raise your rates, keeping track of that. So we're looking at the lead to conversion rate. That for a lot of people, that is your come to Jesus meeting. You are a good mitigator. You are good at your job. You are good, but your marketing, your website looks like trash. You're answering, your phone. Hey, that's how you answer your phone. Hey, yeah. Hello? No. Hey, this is Miller Radon. It's Ben. How may I help you? You have someone in your office who is more rude than they should be, and you can't fire her or him because, they're family. And I've dealt with that with a lot of you. That is you are saying, I love my family more than I love, my business growth and success. Maybe getting that person, Dave Ramsey talks about, you want to put the right person on the right bus in the right seat, right? And so you don't want somebody driving that bus that has no idea where they're going. And you don't want somebody, sitting in a seat that they can't do. So that's a hard conversation. Some of you are really good at being, that have smaller businesses. You are really good at being a mitigator, but you are incapable of talking to someone on the phone. And so, you just literally are not capable of having a conversation. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that either somebody hasn't told you that, or, and that's why you're losing jobs. So you want to look and see why those leads are coming, or going away if you're missing those. And everybody has a different, opinion on what a good lead to job conversion rate. I definitely want it at 50%, because not, especially if some of them maybe are out of town, some of them are maybe inconvenient. Maybe there are some jobs that you just don't want. And so you have, priced those out higher than they should be. But yeah, we want to make sure that you're closing 1 out of 2 jobs that are coming in. If they're good, real jobs, you should be closing those. Then we're going to average job value, or the AJV is another key number. It's the total revenue divided by the number of jobs. So if you complete 100 jobs, you brought in $150,000, your AJV is $1,500. So knowing this is going to help you plan revenue forecasts and understand how different job types affect profitability. So some of you guys do a lot of vapor barrier, and you're not just doing radon, right? So you may look at it and you may have that aha moment going, I am making so much more money on vapor barrier, I don't even want to do mitigation, right? And so you just look at this going, okay, I only want to work on homes that were built since 1980. Okay, that's we're going to put blinders on, because we can do that job. My team and I can do that job in 90 minutes, and we can do 4 of those in a day. And so, we don't ever want to do a crawl space, or we want to only do crawl spaces, whatever it may be, right? And so not only do you have your total amount brought in, but you should also be breaking that down by the type of job. And so have a category of, okay, well, when we do a crawl space, or when we have to do, when the square footage is this. So you can put all that stuff into a spreadsheet, and then you can kind of sort that out by saying, okay, what is it? How much money do we make on homes that are more than 2,000 square feet, or maybe more than 6,000 square feet, or less than, a certain amount. And I would also track in there the amount of time per job. So, you should be clocking it, saying we got there at 8:00. We were gone by noon. So it was a 4-hour job. And then, have another category in there on travel time. So you go, okay, well, the jobs where we had to travel for more than a half an hour, we made 25%, less money. So when you start looking at those and we really get into the numbers, then that will help you change where you market your dollars, because it may make sense or the jobs you take, or how you bid those jobs. If you're losing 25% on every job that's 45 minutes away, you now need to increase your prices by 25% so that job is worthwhile, and it's the same amount across all of them. And then the customer lifetime value, a little bit different in the Radon business, because obviously we don't have people doing multiple or repeat work. However, a lot of people will move homes every 5 to 7 years in the same community, and hopefully we'll use you again. But, while Radon jobs are often one time, many of your customers will refer their friends, and they'll come back for additional services like testing a new house, or, a fan replacement or things like that. So this is more of a long-term thing, but you should be tracking in that spreadsheet of and giving a unique code or name or something to say, David Smith gave me these 3 jobs. And so you can say, well, I paid $100 to get the job in the first place for David Smith. And now David Smith, he paid me $1,500 for the initial job, but he has referred me 3 other people. And so three other people, now I've got $4,500. I spent $100 in that initial, to get that job, but I have netted $6,000 in work. So knowing where, a lifetime value of a customer, and believe me, you should be leaning into those people who are referring you. It may be cheaper to send them a $50 gift card than spending $100 on a new lead. And how much more valuable is a referral from a friend, right? So that's why it's super important. We want to make sure that they are getting, what a customer is worth and how much that they can bring. This is why when you go to cancel your cable, they will do anything to keep you on, because it costs so much more. Or really the answer is on cell phone service, right? Cell phone, they're giving away phones, they're giving away service, they're giving away packages. So if you go and say, hey, I'm going to, call Verizon, hey, I'm going to drop, what can you do for me? I'm going to go to T-Mobile. I guarantee you're going to get a great package. Unless you need a new phone, and then they're going to wrap that new phone into the deal. But a lot of people have kept their prices low on their cell phone service by just jumping back and forth between. I really like having XM Sirius radio in my car. I've had it since they launched the satellites in 2001 or the year 2000. I think it would have been maybe even 99 when I had that. So I've had it for 25 years. And every single year in May, they double my price, because I was on a introductory price. And so it takes me 10 minutes. I get on the online chat and I type in, I just say, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and drop, because the price was $20 a month for 2 radios, and now it's $45 a month. I don't want to pay that. And they go, well, how about we put you back in the same package? You'll have it for one. It's literally like the same thing every single year. And so, I am paying, let's say I end up paying $300 a year for that. And I have been a customer now for 25 years. So, I could do easier math, because if it were 20, that's $6,000, right? So I'm $7,500 of business, and all they have to do is give me that better deal, and they don't lose that money. And so you should know your customer lifetime value, because that customer that you did something for once may be a very long-term, way to get profit. So, hey, we got David at Gardner Environmental. He's watching us over on Facebook, or I'm sorry, YouTube. So thanks for watching us over there. So if you were watching on Facebook, I see a few people over there. I see people on YouTube watching. If you've got questions, throw them in the chat. I will see them pop up, and would love to get your thoughts on some of the stuff that we're talking about. So going into, go ahead, Dave.
Just the job value thing, I think we all know it, but it's incredible how many people will call a person that you did mitigation for and say, I'm interested in doing mitigation in my own home, or I'm selling my home. Who is it you used, and were you happy?
Yeah.
It becomes a very big source of continuing business.
Yeah, I mean, it's just business 101. Take care of your people, and just keep, there is in marketing, obviously front of mind marketing is our billboards, right? If I drive down the street, I see the same. McDonald's does this. They put billboards up going, hey, you may not be hungry now, but in a little bit you will be, and I want you to think about us. But I think the friend of mind marketing, where you stay in the ecosystem of the people that have used you and love you, and they don't forget about you. I know this is a big deal, obviously, with my wife as a local real estate agent. There are 400 or 500 agents here locally, and people will, they're going to, if they have a $100,000 house now, they're going to buy a $250,000 house 5 or 7 years from now. And so my wife is trying to treat her $100,000 clients like that $1 million client that they may be 30 years from now, or whatever that time frame is. And so, but also just staying front of mind to them, so that when their friends are like, hey, I need a realtor, who should I call? Or even better, when the transaction goes really well, my wife bends over backwards for them, that they get on and they close on their house, and they post the picture of them in front of the house with the sold sign, and they go, thank you so much, to former, to our to Lucinda for making this so smooth. And so that's the thing. You saw my brain hit reset. I just saw David just said we get referred many times from former customers. I think we've talked about the marketing on this, but the campaigns to send out postcards, to send out reminders, to check your manometers. There's a million things that you can do to stay. You guys literally have the address of everywhere you've worked, right? You made that somebody may have moved, and they may be in a new, a new house, but now someone is living in the house that you did a mitigation on. That system is still, the new owners did not come in and be like, I don't need this thing, and tear it out, right? It's still there. So send a postcard that introduced yourself and said, hey, I'm David. I've been around since 1997. I installed the system in this house, and just wanted to introduce myself. If you ever have any troubles with it, maybe put a QR code with a little video you shot showing how to check the manometer. And so they scan that, and it plays a little video, and they see your face, they see who you are, and then they go back. So we're now getting into marketing ideas. which is obviously my wheelhouse and the thing I get fired up and wake up for every day. So those of you who want to jump off and or give me a call sometime, and you're ready to take that next step to grow your business, we could talk about those ideas. But I'm gonna stay focused here. We're gonna go back to the operational metrics, things that you should be you're looking at, and so the first thing is obviously your job completion and cancellation rate. So we want to know how many jobs booked you actually finish, right? Or what, not that you don't finish a whole lot of jobs, but you should, in the radon industry, it should be successful jobs, right? So you were able to lower the radon to a safe level. David, you'll hear him say, never had a failure. That doesn't mean he didn't go back, right?
That's
correct. That's the humility in the hubris. So you could say, I never had a failure. They weren't all on the first try. And so that is a thing to remember. But so your job completion, successful rate, but also cancellation rate. Is there something that has happened either from the customer or from you that has had made that booked job not happen? And I would say one of the number one reasons is that they were able to find someone who could do it faster. And so those of you who are booked 3 or 4 weeks out, and you guys you're puffing up your chest and you're telling me how busy you are, great, hire somebody, get somebody else in there and do your jobs faster. I'm not saying do not do as good of a job. I'm saying do the same job faster. And so if someone comes to mow my lawn and they have one mower, they can only do one row at a time. But you see these guys roll up they're like a SWAT team, and they roll out, and one guy grabs the weed whacker, one guy it's got the deck that's this wide. What are the tools that are in place that can make that job go faster? The guy that did the weed whacking goes back and grabs the blower. He starts blowing it off before the other guy's even finished, and he's putting the deck back in the trailer when the guy's finishing up blowing, and they're out of there in 10 minutes. Did they do a worse job than the guy with a single push mower? No, they just did it faster. And now all those tools cost more, but they have, if you get it down to a science, and we'll talk about that, then you're going to be able to do more jobs. And maybe you're able to make the same amount of money, but you could just rest your, head on your pillow at night knowing that you're employing 3 people or 4 people, and that you're changing the lives of people that work for you because they didn't have a job. That feels pretty good too. So, and in our business, it also means that we're saving more lives, because if we can get these things done, is it possible that somebody decided not to do it because it was going to take too long? If we're in a real estate transaction, this stuff often has to get done prior to closing. It becomes a little bit more sketchy if you're doing it after closing. You got to know how to do that right. And so is it a scheduling issue? Is it price? Is it miscommunication during sales? Figure out why jobs are canceling. You're going to have jobs cancel for sure, right? But you not being able to do the job in a timely fashion is something that you can fix. You not clearly explaining the job or why you need to come in. People don't understand why you have to completely encapsulate a crawl space, right? So if you're not explaining that, or maybe you're not explaining why the vapor barrier that David Smith Radon sells is better than Visqueen, right? Take some Visqueen with you to the job and bid it out, and ask the person to tear both of them, right? Sure. And so and say, hey, listen, you've got this crawl space. It's 5 feet high. How would you like this to be usable storage space for your family, right? You got stuff all over your garage. How would you like to have this and be able to crawl around in here? You never really thought about that because it's always been, hidden behind an old piece of plywood that is screwed to the wall, right? But now it's going to be like we can throw some lights in here while we're doing the, like, whatever it may be, right? But make sure you're talking about those, and so you're not losing the job or they're canceling. Job completion rate, cancellation rate. We also talked about whether or not, it's your close rate, that kind of stuff. I want to know how long your average job is. This is when I was talking about on that spreadsheet. We should be talking about if the job takes 6 hours, but if it should take 6 hours, but it consistently runs 8, that's gonna stop an extra job or 2 every week. So tracking your actual duration, including drive time, including time for breaks, including time for lunch. You may need additional training. You may need to be better at scheduling. You may need to, are you waiting on equipment and it's not getting in there? So, do you need to change when you're ordering your stuff so that you have stuff on hand so that those projects get done? I talked to a local, they are a remodeler, painting remodeling company here in town. I'm friends with the owner. And, I said, hey, I honestly, I hadn't asked if they do windows. And he was like, yeah, of course we do windows. And he's like, I'll come over, I'll bid, because I need siding, windows, and a roof. So I get to spend money on all the crappy things that, I could put a new pool in my house or do those 3 things, right? But he said, we have 2 different prices. We have a price if you need this job done right away, and we have a price if you're flexible and you've got an indoor project that we can start when it rains on one of our outdoor projects. And so, they are scheduling so that they have clients who are flexible, who can wait to take the job or to start the job, and they may get a call the day before saying, hey, it looks like forecast has rain for the next week. We're going to come do your job. And and they got 20% or 10% off for that. So maybe you have some jobs, whether it's new construction, maybe it's somebody that is not panicked about radon in their house, and you can say, hey, listen, we're gonna do this job on when, or maybe it's out of town. So David did a lot of work in our town, but he did a lot of work 45 minutes away. And so when you can stack those jobs up, in the 45-minute away town, then you're not going over doing one, coming back, and you just lost 90 minutes of driving because you had one job to do over there. So if you could do multiple jobs, scheduling in the radar, if you obviously, if you guys all know this, scheduling is probably one of the top 5 ways for you to make more money in this industry. Is building a schedule where there's not a ton of downtime, where there's not a ton of drive time, when you can squeeze those jobs in. Or maybe you have a fan replacement that you do on the way home from a job, right? And so like that stuff that you can, it's like the beautiful mind. You've got all that stuff all figured out, and having someone in your office that does. For David, that was Sue, right? David wakes up. Oh, yeah. He wakes up in the morning and he's like, "Where am I going?" He has no idea until he gets the list from his wife. Mm. So that person in your office is worth their weight in gold, because that person is probably going to make you more money because of the way that they can. Sue had these beautiful glass calendars in her office. For the next 2 months, and they were gigantic. They were the whole wall, but she could just look up there and see, here's where everybody's at. And so, and then, maybe the guys were going to do a job, and then David was going to bid them out. And so that is now, if you're a smaller business and you have that person, but that person is really, really, really good at that, but they are not good on the phone, right? We talked about that earlier. Put the right person in the right seat on the bus. Don't let that person answer the phones. Don't even put a phone on their desk. because if they're not capable of interacting with customers, you're going to lose people, even though they're so talented at making sure the operational side of things goes well. So keep that in mind. But knowing how long a project takes, knowing how long each job is, how much more do we add for you could get real geeky on this and be like, okay, this square footage of crawl space equals this much time. If the furnace is in the crawl space, right, and it's laying on its side, and like that kind of stuff, which you guys have all dealt with, and is just a nightmare. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's another thing to go. Okay, if we have a water heater and a furnace down in the crawl space, then we know that adds 1.8x on the time, or whatever it may be, right? And so if the walls are have this, like, you could get real geeky on that, but I just want you tracking something at this point, just so you have something.
Sure.
The warranty or return visits, you should be tracking this too. The return visits means you didn't do the job right the first time. And that's something that we hope that number goes down as you're in business longer, that you can walk in and that's now. But we just talked about the limestone house, right? And it's like some of this stuff is just really unexpected. And so if you know that in your metrics that 1 out of 14 homes that you do, you're going to return on, you're going to factor that in. And that may change your price because it is unavoidable. It may be that you have to charge $100 more on every job because you 1 out of every 14, you are, you're having to go back and spend a half a day there. You already spent a half day putting in the system, but now you're doing something else. And so warranty visits, I think that comes down to the products that you use. And so when you're using a really high quality product, that's going to lower those calls. And also when you have suppliers who are giving you, who are able to warranty service things out fast, if you have to get a replacement fan shipped to you or a replacement part or whatever it may be, that's something to factor in. How can I make my business run smoother? It may depend on who your distributor is, or the product, or the fan that you use, or if you roll out and if you've got a sniffer there, so when you're done doing the job, you've got a really great idea right off the bat. Maybe you come in with a Radon iPro, and that's just running in the background, and so as you're cleaning up, you get 15 minutes of data just to see it drop, right? You may have 4 hours of data by the time you leave, but that last 15 minutes, you can say, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this, right? Now, also factor in that you're carrying stuff in and out of the doors, and you got a guy who always leaves that front door open to go out to the truck and comes back. So don't get too locked in on that number, but that kind of stuff. How do we decrease those, warranty visits? The last thing in the operational metrics, obviously, is your customer satisfaction, and so you can. There's some people may say the NPS, a net promoter score, like a survey to gauge satisfaction. Happy customers will refer you. They'll leave you good reviews and boost your reputation, which will decrease your marketing costs. And unhappy customers also give you an opportunity to improve. So if you catch their feedback early, you can often turn a negative into a positive experience and salvage future referrals. I talk about this every single time with every single business I talk to, and that is that when you are doing the job, from the moment the person calls you, you say, hey, I want to provide you with 5-star service from this moment on. And you haven't even hired me yet, but it's going to be 5-star service from this moment on. If at any point in our transaction ever I am not giving you 5-star service, can you please tell me? You will not hurt my feelings. Please tell me if I didn't return a call fast enough. Talk about the things that, and what you're doing is priming them to go, oh man, he does return calls fast. He did clean up after himself. He did, really describe what, like, and say, hey, if I didn't describe what I was going to do, if you didn't understand something, can you let me know? Because I don't ever want there to be any confusion. If you didn't understand the contract and agreement we have, if the invoice, was different for some reason and you didn't know about that, can you please just let me know? Because I want that 5-star service the whole time. And I only have one ask. If I give you that 5-star service, when it's time for the review, man, I'd really appreciate you telling, because that really helps me and my family. So if someone leaves you a less than 5-star review and they didn't tell you, depending on your personality, you can call them up and be like, hey, like, remember when I said, like, how much I want to make this right, or if they're upset with something along the way, absolutely, I want to make this right. So tell me how I can make it right. I'm going to make it right now, and that may be in the midst of the job. Money back because something happened. You took longer than you said you were going to take. You didn't return, like, whatever it may be. How can you improve on that and make people you get that satisfied customer, because they are going to pay you back in spades in reviews and everything else. So super important. Last, we're talking about their financial and business health metrics. And this is where we start talking about where I lost the whole slide here. That's fantastic. So we'll pretend that there's a slide there, and I'll just talk about it. But the things we're going to talk about are gross profit margin per job. So revenue is not the same as profit. So you can bring in $10,000 a week and still be losing money if your margins are too low. So gross profit margin is the difference between what you earn and the direct cost to deliver the job, like materials and labor. So if your margin is shrinking, it may be time to revisit your pricing, negotiating, getting better supplier deals. Maybe you need to buy 25 fans at once to get a better deal, or 100 couplers at once, or manometers, so you're getting a better deal. Tracking this is going to ensure that you're building a financially strong business, not just a busy one. That's important. You want a financially strong business. Being busy does not mean you're making money. So we're also going to talk about your break-even point. Your break-even point is how much revenue you need to cover all of your fixed and variable costs before you start making a profit. So it's crucial for planning, because it tells you exactly how many jobs or dollars you need each month just to stay afloat. Knowing this number helps you set realistic sales targets. It helps you price jobs properly and avoid stressful cash flow crunches. So this is one of the most empowering metrics that you need to know as a business owner. And then we talk into cash flow tracking. Cash flow is king, right? What happens if you can't pay your star employees and they freak out, they go get another job? Now you have a huge setback. What if you don't have enough money to get your fans in, or your products, or pay for repairs on your vehicles, or things like that? So you can be profitable on paper and still run out of money if payments are delayed or expenses are piling up. So in cash flow tracking, you want to track it. It's going to help you see when you have extra funds that you can reinvest, or where you need to prepare for slower months. And a healthy cash flow means that you can pay your team on time, take on big projects without stress, and sleep better at night knowing your business is financially secure. So don't be the person who gets a great big check and then has a great big job, and you do 2 of these every year, and when you get that big job, you go on a vacation, you blow the whole thing. So let's figure out how, instead of only having 2 of those big jobs a year, I talked to you guys on vapor barrier jobs, and it's like, we had $100,000 job. I'm like, that's awesome. How do we get 1 of those a month, right? How do we do that if that's the most profitable thing you do? So the overall profitability benchmarks is beyond individual job, it's good to track overall profitability. So what percentage of your total revenue are you keeping after expenses? This is often the truest measure of business health and helps you benchmark against industry standards or set goals for improvement. So over time, you can look at these trends and understand if your business is becoming more efficient or if costs are eating into your profits. Then this knowledge supports smart growth instead of just chasing higher revenue without a plan. So those are those things that we're looking at in your profitability, business health, financial health metrics. You want to know those numbers. And now for the part that I actually have, which is the tools for tracking systems, or tools and systems for tracking. Excuse me. So how do we track all the stuff that we've talked about today? The first thing, it would be like a CRM, customer or client management software, like Jobber. Some of you are using Service Titan, House Call Pro, maybe even if you're using Service Booster working with us, that's a place where you can track some of that information. They're designed for businesses like you, and they can help you track your leads, your jobs, your invoices, phone calls, all in one place. And they can automate reminders, record your client history, and give you an at-a-glance view instead of just a scattered spreadsheets and sticky notes. You can have a single source of truth. And so you want to make sure that no leads or invoices slip through the cracks using these tools. So these are super important. The next would be Google Analytics and call tracking. This is going to track. This is going to track if you are using, if you're running Google Ads. It's also going to track your website views and how many people are coming or what they're searching for, if they're clicking on your website, if they're going to your website, and if they are filling out the form, and obviously you get the lead. Call tracking. It is unacceptable to only have one phone number. No one memorizes phone numbers nowadays. I have 3 children, and I know one of their phone numbers. I do not dial their phone numbers. My kids know our numbers because when they were in school, they still had a phone on the wall that they would type in the number and call their mom and dad. So they had to learn our numbers then. But I do not know David Smith's phone number. I have no idea what it is. None. So when my caller ID comes up, it says David Smith. So that is not an argument for having one phone number. Like, oh, I have a great phone number, so I just want people to be able to remember it and to memorize it. No one is doing that. Having a separate phone number that is only on your Google business profile and it's tracked, so we know every time someone dials that number, they got it from Google. If you have a different phone number on your website, every time they dial that number, they got it from your website. If you are dumb enough to run a billboard for a radon mitigation company in your town, then you should have a different phone number on that. But no one is going to memorize it as they're driving down the road. So in that case, you want to have a website that people can remember. And it may be yourtownradon.com. It may be something that people can remember. If you live in Cleveland, it should be doihaveradonincleveland.com, something that's just people remember. And so we know every time somebody types in that website that it is being tracked, and you go, oh, my billboard is actually generating. Now, billboards are hard because that's front of mind advertising. So if somebody recognizes the name David Smith Radon, then they are going to go back home and type in on their computer inside of Google, David Smith Radon, or Radon, my town, and then it comes up as an organic listing. So they're going to click on it there. that now we're talking about how many times does someone have to hear or see your name. They heard a friend tell about it, but they still Googled it. They saw it on a billboard, which is crazy, but they still Googled it. So now we've got multiple ways that people are seeing it, and then they're actually, getting to you. But we want to know if you're spending money on Angie's List, and they're gonna give you some data. Obviously, you know how many people fill out the form. If you are running an ad on Facebook, that should take you to a landing page so we know where that lead came from, because sometimes those places that sell you leads aren't always truthful, and they tell you that you got 150 leads today, and you're looking at your phone going, well, it rang twice. So that will help you determine whether or not they are being legit with you. So that's Google Analytics and call tracking. You can have some basic spreadsheets or dashboards. So not everybody wants to jump into that fancy software right away. That's fine. You can just start out with a spreadsheet, a Google sheet, an Excel sheet to keep you track your jobs, your revenue, expenses, marketing performance. The key is to get in the habit of consistently updating it. Once you build the habit, you'll be ready to upgrade to a dashboard or CRM later. And the most important is that you start measuring, even if it's as simple as possible. When I said you could build a spreadsheet that says, this is, if you have a column for, okay, this house had a crawl space and it was this many square feet. Okay. You may just start with this house had a crawl space. Like that is better than not keeping track of it, because if you look at it and go, well, we did 500 jobs this year and we averaged $2,100 a job. Okay, cool. But how many of those had a crawl space? How many of those did you charge twice as much for because you did twice as much work? And so, and then you compare that based on the products that you buy, like vapor barrier, things like that are specifically for crawl spaces, and you go, yeah, we make more money doing this thing. And then accounting software and integrations. David over on YouTube was talking about. It says we use Service M8. It integrates with QuickBooks. A lot of software does integrate with QuickBooks. Whether it's QuickBooks, you can keep track of your inventory in there. Some people do that. That's more for businesses like David's wholesale company, where they could keep track of their stock inside of that. It's not the best, but that's an option. Some people will keep track of what they're buying and compare it to jobs. So QuickBooks Zero is another software, but this is definitely gonna keep track of invoices that are due, how fast people are getting paid, and this is going to give you a lot of information for that financial outlook of your business. And so that is something that you definitely want to keep track of as well. I went the wrong way. Next steps for you guys: make a list of what you want to be tracking. So go in and just say, I gave you a list of things that I think you should be tracking today. Pick some of them if you're not tracking them at all, and say, okay, well, I'm gonna track the profit per job, and I'm gonna compare that, or I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna figure out how long it takes for from the time a lead that comes in. And if it comes in by email, it comes in by phone, you have that time to the time that becomes a closed job, right? So does it take me 3 days to close the job because I'm going to go out and bid it? How can I get that number down? How can I get my price per job down? How can I get the labor per job down? How can I get the drive time per job down? So just make a list of the metrics that you want to keep track of. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. You could outsource it, right? If you're using a marketing agency like Service Booster, like my agency, we're going to keep track of how many leads are coming in. We're going to keep track of whether or not you're, where they move through the pipeline if you use those tools. We're going to keep track of the, so we can incorporate that for you, and certainly give you some data on how you're tracking your organic Google growth and things like that. So you can outsource that so that somebody can just give you a report, and decide this. I could have worded this better. Decide the length of the data that you're tracking before making changes. So I'm saying don't do 1 week's worth of tracking and be like, oh my goodness, we take, so like, this may be a 6-month thing. This may be your goal for the rest of 2025, is that by January 1st, you're going to know how many jobs you do in the quarter 3 or quarter 4. The best thing about it is if you start now and you really get into this, that you'll have year over year data. My wife and I just started talking about this in her real estate business, and I said, it's you don't know how you're making money 90 days from now. Like, you literally will have someone who calls you that wants to be a client of yours, and then they'll find a house in those 2 or 3 weeks that they're looking, and they're closing on that house 6 weeks later. But you didn't even know that person yesterday. But today they're going to be responsible for $5,000 or $10,000 in revenue. And so knowing seasonally how your numbers comes in, that will change how you're able to manage your cash flow. You already have a gut that knows that things are really slow in December, right? So you know that you need to have that money set aside, or things are really slow in January, or whatever that month is for you, wherever you are in the country, right? And then when you have a really crazy month, crazy good, in that normally slow time, then you're going, okay, don't go blow that money. It may be an anomaly. That may have been in Q1. You may have gotten your money from Q2. Something may have happened that all those people that normally would do, business with you in the second quarter of the year just did in the first quarter. So maybe you set that money aside so that you're prepared for it. Or maybe you've been collecting data long enough that goes, I need more help. I need another crew. And now we're going to put that time and effort into getting those people hired and trained and ready to go, because you have the data to support it. You have seen year over year or month over month growth. Month over month is dangerous. Year over year is, and quarter over quarter, just because of the seasonality of what we do, right? If retailers said, yeah, every year from like Thanksgiving to like the week before Christmas, we make a bunch of money. We should hire 10,000 more employees in January if this trend continues. That would be irresponsible, right? So, but the retailers also know, after Black Friday, because they've named it at this point, they know they're going to make all of their money in these 6 weeks or 5 weeks or 4 weeks of the year. So they spend an entire year preparing for that. You should be doing the same thing. You should be using that data to say, I'm not returning calls fast enough. I know that if I put $100 in a Google ad, I get 2 jobs. Like, you should know that. You should know those numbers. That's what we're tracking here. You should know that I can spend $50 and get a job. Why would you not rinse and repeat that all day long? $50 to pull a $1,500 job in? I mean, that would be insane. Now you might use that data and it's maybe right off the bat it's $500 to get a $1,500 job. That doesn't feel as good. But maybe that was an anomaly, and you do 10 of it, and that number gets down to $200 for a $1,500 job. And you go, that is the price of entry for me to get a job. I don't have to do anything else. I just spend that, and you go, okay, well, I'm gonna reclaim that $200, and now my jobs are gonna be $1,700, and now it's you're net even. You just do that all day, rinse and repeat, right? So that these are the next steps. I am hoping that if you're watching this, if you are, if you're watching this later, throw it into the Facebook chat, throw it into the YouTube comments. What are you going to track? What is that thing that that you need to do a better job of? And so how did you use this data, David? Like when you were, how did it change? Because you had Sue, who was great at this, right? So how did that change your behavior in running your business?
Well, you're right. I was lucky. I had Sue and then I had Ben.
Yeah.
But even before the times when all of the programs were there to help you so much, she just had it all down,
Yeah.
and everything just had it all down, and it just ran like clockwork. But then if somebody called in sick, she get really frustrated.
Well, and that's something we didn't even talk about, right? So how are you tracking the things that are setbacks? Like, okay, I have an employee who is missing 25 days a year sick. And then you get into the data real close and you go, he misses every Monday after he gets paid on Friday. Right? And so you start doing that math and you go, how can I change my behavior? I know a lot of people that pay their guys on Mondays now because they don't blow it over the weekend. And so they don't miss work. So that kind of stuff you keep track. But yeah, a lot of you guys that have been watching this have been doing this for a long time. You did this before QuickBooks. You did this before there was Google, before there were websites. And so that makes you it makes your skin a little thicker, and it's kind of like we were driving up to Iowa. We stopped at a rest stop, and they had free maps of Illinois. And I grabbed one, and I brought it out to my 19-year-old son. And I go, I bet you have never, ever looked at a physical map to see where you are. You've never done that. And he had not. Now my son is going to build the thing that teleports you from one place to the next, so he's not worried about that. But it is definitely one of those things where you go, are our brains smarter because we know how to read a map? Probably, right? People that only watch their GPS to get from one place to the next did not look at where the streets were, and they're going to get lost on the way home if they don't have a cell signal and they can't use their GPS. Those of you who've been in this business long enough, Google may go away tomorrow. They may have a class action lawsuit okay, so it goes away. What are you going to do? Like what made you brought you in business prior to that? And so that's what we're talking about, the relationships. What is the value of a customer? And so we
Yellow pages.
Yeah, yellow pages, right? Some of us have been in business long enough that we were excited or angry, or you went through all the stages of grief when the yellow pages came, and you open it up to see what your competitors bought for an ad that year and where they ranked below or ahead of you, or heaven forbid there was a typo in your ad, right? And that is out for a year. Like you can't change that. And so that kind of thing, we keep track of that stuff and we adapt. And I always tell people, 5 years from now, we're going to have our cell phones and a hologram is going to pop up on top of it. And it's going to be you talking to the other person. I said, I don't know how to do holograms yet, but I'm going to have to learn real fast when Google says we're not going to allow your website to show up on our search unless it has a hologram on it. Right. And so, and so that's a real thing. It's not a real thing, but I don't know what that next thing is. And that's why we have to that's why we keep track of it. And we know, hey, when how many, like, if you were tracking how many calls you get from your Yellow Pages ad right now, you would have been tracking that. You would have saw that number going down and down and down, and you might see something else going up. That's where you invest your money. And so, yeah, that's it. Lots to soak in. This isn't a fun one. This is something that is stressful, but it's important.
Right. And maybe next time, Ben, we'll talk about products that are out there, new products, old products, what's selling good,
Yep.
what's out there to help people. Maybe we'll do we haven't done a products one in a while. Maybe we'll go to products.
Yeah, I think next week we'll definitely do that. So we'll get lots of people. More people always tune in for show and tell because it's more fun than when I'm telling people that they have to make spreadsheets and keep track of stuff. Nobody tunes in to watch that. When it's like, oh, they're fun toys that I get to buy and play with and things like that. Yeah, everybody's going to tune in for that. So I know where I stand. I know how much fun the stuff I do is. But that's why y'all pay me to just take it over for you, so you don't have to think about it. So.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for those of you that were on YouTube, those of you over on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on those platforms as well. Walter, we hardly knew you. We had somebody in here in the Zoom room here today, but hopefully we brought you some things to be thinking about. And yeah, next week I want to know. You'll be a week into the third quarter. What have you set up to track that you were not tracking before, and I'm anxious to see the changes that you guys make to make your business healthier. And
good idea.
And that's it. So,
good idea.
All right, guys.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
We'll see you. We will see you next week. All right. Bye.